series Viking welding helmet. There's a couple videos out there, or a couple reviews out there, and there's like one video on YouTube that I saw about the helmet. Young man was doing a real good job of explaining what came with the helmet in the box, etc. I wanted to do a quick review of it, my experiences of using it. Now, why did I decide to choose the Viking? Part of it was because I had some Optrail satellite helmets I had bought probably 10-12 years ago. Bought one for myself, one for my son, as we were trying to learn how to weld. I was using it primarily for MIG welding. Spent about 10 years teaching myself how to do that. My son was using it sometimes. What then happened over the last year or so is that the cells in these went bad, and so maybe it was from not using it as much as I should have and recharging it, but you can't replace the cartridges and you can't replace the batteries in these Optrails. Well, what I found is that in order to replace the cartridge, well, you can, except that it's about $20 cheaper to buy the cartridge than it is to buy the entire welding helmet. Not something I actually liked. I thought it was kind of a rip-off, that you couldn't buy just a cartridge and pop this out, put a new one in, and more importantly that these things didn't have replaceable batteries. At the time I bought it, this was very nice. I spent probably $200-300 for them. Idea being that if I'm going to use them, and more importantly if my son at the time, who was still a young teenager, was going to use them, we wanted something that was good quality. I liked the helmets at the time. These were my first experiences with auto darkening helmets, and while they were good, as time passed, the clarity wasn't quite there, and then sometimes it would change shade and auto darken, sometimes it would not. So I started looking into other helmets. Now, unless you know a welding shop or you know a bunch of friends who are welders who have a variety of welding helmets, you're kind of stuck with just looking at reviews and trying to figure out what to do. Well, I was able to use one of these Radner Crusaders at work. Used this for the last couple years or so, and it was pretty good. Overall, not bad experiences with it. It's got their auto darkening features just like everybody else. It's got a real nice bigger field of view, bigger lens, which is one thing I liked over the Optrails. And what was nice, me getting older, I need to start using cheater lenses for my welding or my reading glasses. So this has a nice slot in there where you can put your cheater lens in there. I like that. Personally, I like having the cheater lens on the lower half, the upper half free, so that when I looked up, my distance vision was still okay, or as good as it normally is. But when I do go ahead and start to weld, I was able to use the cheater down here for whether it was either MIG welding or TIG welding. So while I had this, I was experienced with it. I wasn't 100% happy with it. Now, last week I was very fortunate, and I was able to go out to Lincoln Electric and go to their TIG welding class. It's a 5-day class, part of the comprehensive program. During that 5-day class, I was using the Radner, and like I said, I was overall pretty happy with it, but I knew I needed a personal welding helmet. My Optrails, I didn't even try to bring those with me because of how bad they were and the fact that they would sometimes darken and not darken. So while I'm using the Radner, I've been looking online, looking at reviews of different welding helmets, and there are a bunch of companies out there who are making good ones. This is not a ding on any of those. It's more the fact that, and I have Miller welding equipment at home, and I have Miller equipment that I use at work. It wasn't that just because I went to Lincoln I decided to buy a Lincoln. It was because when I looked at the price point that I had, and I was working with about $200 or so, maybe a little bit more, there's only a certain number of ones that were of very good quality. The 3350 out the door while I was at the Lincoln TIG school was only $189. So $189 out the door. That's a good $30 to $40 cheaper than any place I saw online. The Miller helmets that I saw, of the comparable ones, the Digital Elites and some of the other ones that they have, were quite a bit more expensive. Not necessarily out of the price range, but when you can save $40, $50, $70, that's what I'm going to do. I have seen some reviews over the 3350 on Amazon, and one thing I was kind of surprised at is, at least if you look at the Amazon reviews, there's quite a few people complaining about how shiny the helmet is, that it's going to show scratches. Well, I'm not a professional welder, told everybody that multiple times, but if you're worried, at least to me, if you're worried about a shiny helmet getting scratched, you may not be welding enough, or you're more concerned with the appearance of the helmet than you are maybe the quality of the weld. If you get a scratch in the helmet, put a sticker on it. Cover the scratch up if that's what bothers you. While I was there, I was actually at the welding school. One of the instructors there, Charlie, had one of these helmets. Most of the students had these. I was able to use Charlie. He's an instructor there, a great guy. Taught me a lot, was very, very friendly, very helpful. He had one of the 3350s, and I was able to use his helmet a little bit. He actually had a different cartridge, which instead of the greenish tint that you normally see, his had a blue tint. It was real nice, real clear. Hopefully Lincoln will come out with those cartridges and they'll be a decent price. For now, since this is a new helmet, I'm going to use this one until the cartridge dies or until I have any issues with it. One of the things I did see online, which I did see also as I used it, was the clarity. As you're looking through the Radner and you're looking through the out trails, the clarity as I'm just before it auto darkens isn't quite as good as I would like. 3350 has some really good clarity in it. I was very happy with that. There were some questions over the controls, how small they are. I don't necessarily have the smallest hands, but I found no problem at all adjusting them. If nothing else, you can use a set of TIG MIG pliers or needle nose, adjust them. I'm not sure how frequently some of the people are adjusting their shade. For me, I don't do it all that frequently, but again, that may also be because I'm not welding as much as they are. While I was there at the TIG class, I had to go ahead and use my cheater lens, as I've mentioned. I also made it a point to use my reading glasses while wearing the helmet. I found no problem at all sticking the cheater lens inside there, and again, it's a half size lens. It's not in there now. I'll put it in later to show you something. I put that in the lower portion of the lens, so I was able to look up, just like kind of like with the bifocals, looking up and seeing distance vision, looking down to see my near vision for my welds. Another review on there, another point of interest on the lens, or excuse me, on the helmet is the headband. This has a 4-point harness versus what are probably traditional 3-point harnesses. I found this comfortable. I wore this helmet with my beanie hat on that I'm wearing now, as well as without it. Wore it wearing cheater lenses, wore it wearing glasses, no problem at all in either position. This particular back strap there, it adjusted, it was fine, got everything on there nice and comfortable. For me, it worked great. Overall, I've been very happy with it. Again, with the price point I'm dealing with, it was very good. I'll try to show some welds with it so you can see through the camera what it looks like, if I can rig that up properly. But like I said, overall I've been very happy with it. I've only been using it for about a week or two, so it's been very good for me. Maybe for you, whether you're a professional welder or not. I have seen some reviews talking about how heavy the helmet is. I didn't notice it being very heavy. During the class, I was able to weld about 5 to 6 hours a day, and during that time period, I made it a point to weld both just sitting down at the bench, looking up, looking down, trying to put it in a couple different positions. I had no problem with it at all. There were some comments on some of the reviews over well a helmet would stay up or down as you're putting it on or trying to look up. There's plenty of clicks inside the mechanism here, so that for me, I never had an issue with the helmet falling down, and maybe just how tight they had the screws. Personally, I didn't have a problem at all. So I'm going to try to get some stuff set up, and I'll try to do a MIG weld and put the camera looking through the helmet so you can see what it looks like, and try to do a couple of things with it. Maybe try to do a TIG weld later on so you can see how it looks with that. And again, a lot of it's going to be a function of how dark you like it or what your shade is. For this helmet, it's been good for me. Overall, I've been pretty satisfied with it. On a rating of 5, I would give it a 5 right now. So let me try to get some stuff set up and we'll do some welding. Alright, so what I'm trying to do is use my MIG welder on this piece right here. We'll see how it turns out. I've got the shade set to 11 on the Lincoln helmet. You're actually looking through the Lincoln helmet right now. So the shade set to 11, the delay is set to the shortest time possible. So let me try to run this right now. I'm actually wearing the Radner helmet. I'm just going to do a quick one on my big machine. That's the noise you hear in the background, and we'll see how that one turns out. And again, we're not talking about the quality of our welds here. I'm just trying to demonstrate the helmet itself and how it auto darkens. Alright, so what I'm going to try to do is be with my MIG welder on this piece right here. We'll see how it turns out. I've got the shade set to 11 on the Lincoln helmet. You're actually looking through the Lincoln helmet right now. So the shade set to 11, the delay is set to the shortest time possible. So let me try to run this right now. I'm actually wearing the Radner helmet. I'm just going to do a quick one on my big machine. That's the noise you hear in the background, and we'll see how that one turns out. And again, we're not talking about the quality of my welds here. I'm just trying to demonstrate the helmet itself and how it auto darkens.